Awesome. Welcome, everybody. Entry level helps you learn and get experiences so you can get hired. We have a bunch of different programs ranging from UX design to product management to data analyst to financial analyst and growth marketing. To get started and do a little bit of an icebreaker and see where everyone is joining us from, I would love for everyone to put in the chat and let us know where you're joining us from. So type in the city and country you are joining us from, and let's see where everyone is from. So we see someone from Delhi. I myself I'm joining from Kenya in Nairobi. We have someone from Rajasthan, that's my hometown. Bangalore, Mumbai, South Africa, Venezuela, wonderful. And a lot of people from Nigeria, Sweden, Kuwait, Bangalore, amazing. And Somalia, oh, and Australia as well, someone from Perth, wonderful. So we have people from all over the world. Wonderful. So to kickstart, my name is Ayush, and I am the learning designer here at EntryLevel, and I'm going to be the moderator today. For the event, a couple of things. Please be respectful and don't spam the chat. But if you have any questions, you can ask in the chat. Turn on your videos if you can. We'd love to see faces behind people who are joining us. So if you can, I would appreciate if you can turn off your videos. And if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. And I can unmute you if you want to ask a question, or you can simply put your question in the chat and I can ask that on your behalf. So the agenda for today is a quick 30-minute chat with Ibukun, and which is more of a Q&A and a chat about UX design. And then we'll be joined by Sarah half an hour later, and we'll do a chat with her. So Ibukun is I'm going to let her introduce herself, but she's a visual designer and brand strategist. And as my first question to you, Ibukun, to kick this off, tell us a little bit about yourself. We'd love to know more about you.
Okay, thank you so much, Aish. Thanks for the introduction. My name is Ibukun Nofew, and you can call me IBK because it's simple, I guess. And I'm a curious brand designer turned brand strategist. I have over 7 years experience working globally and across multicultural landscapes, helping brands find clarity on what they have, discover their competitive edge, overcome communication challenges, and create meaningful relationship between brands and people, giving them a strategic advantage in the marketplace. So I've had the pleasure to work on a couple of projects ranging from corporate clients to top-tier entertainment brands and high-tech startups and agencies. I'm self-driven, curious, I'm a visionary, a team player, a nature lover, and a nude enthusiast. Yeah, that's it about me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
So many of the students that we have they're generally entry level, or they're trying to break into a new industry. We would love to know, how did you get started into the space, and what was the early phases of your career like after university, for example?
Oh, okay. So I started out as a graphic designer. I actually went to school to study graphic design and printing. So I started out as a graphic designer and a print consultant. From there, I got a job at a small agency where I had to learn to do everything, because when you work in a small agency, you are the only designer. So you have to be the UI designer, you have to be the motion designer, you have to be the graphic designer, you have to do everything, branding, everything. So I became a multidisciplinary designer by working at that agency, because I had to learn everything from the beginning. And so at that point, I learned very early on that visual aesthetics alone won't cut it. And so I expanded my approach to looking at businesses in their entirety. That's how I started brand strategy. So because I realized that, design alone wasn't the answer to it. You need to understand the business from a very big point of view before you start designing. So yeah, that was how I started. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. I saw someone raise a hand, but I think I missed that. We have almost 100 people in this call, so I missed that. But if you want to ask a question again, whoever that was, maybe put it in the chat or raise your hand again. Yeah, that would be easier. Or you can message that you want to ask a question and I can unmute you. All right. But I have a bunch of questions. So in case I'm going to keep on I'm going to keep on going with my questions. I guess since like continuing on the beginner the side of things, so like starting on in this industry, how would you have any tips for someone who's getting started in the UX design or the design space, and how can they ramp up their learning with practical skills and make a portfolio that would help them get a job? So any tips on doing that to land their first graphic design or UX design job?
Okay, so firstly, I would say this: if you're trying to learn, if you're trying to start from UX design, I think even if you're trying from graphic design, the best thing you can do for yourself is to start with the basics. Like start with the basics. I mean, there is nothing that can. There's no other way for you to go about it. If you start with the basics, you come out very strong. Like I said, I went to a design school. So because I went to a design school, I had to start from the basics. I was taught design from the basics, the simple things, the little things. You start from there. When you start from there, you build on a strong foundation. So you don't have to you don't have to fly or other person. It's easy for you to just move around to other design spaces if you start from the basics, even when you want to do US design. So if you're trying to build, ramp up your learning and build practical skills and build this case study, I think what you need to do is do research online on brands with poor UI UX design. I used to do that a lot. I go online, I look for brands that have like poor UI design. And especially if you're in Africa, there like a lot of countries in Africa that have like really poor branding or poor UI or poor UX. So I use them as my case study. I research them, I see the problem, and then I fix it. When you fix the problem, it's a great way for you to build your portfolio, to learn where you are, and then learn why you're at it. So you build your portfolio and then you learn why you're at it, because you're solving a problem, a real-time problem for a business. So it's not just a dummy problem. I mean, people like to build like dummy problems or demo problems, like they say, but I feel like when you build actual solutions for actual problems, for real-time problems, it becomes easier. So the idea is you are fixing, let's say you see let me just use a McDonald's, a problem with the McDonald's design or a problem with the McDonald's app. I'm just please quote. I'm not saying McDonald's has any issue. I'm just saying if you see a problem with the app or the website or something or any of their design elements, what you need to do is that particular design, solve the problem. What do you think the problem was? Like, go deep into it, solve the problem, and then put it out there. You are not building the problem for the company so that they can pay you, just so we are clear. You are building the problem, so you are building the solution to that problem because you're trying to learn from real time. And the thing with that kind of thing is when people see your portfolio, they see real-time companies. I mean, then they come and ask, oh, did you actually work with this company? Because that has already bridged a gap of communication. They come to you to ask questions. Or imagine you build a solution for YouTube. Even though YouTube is not the one that has the solution, you're not building the solution for actual YouTube, but just your own solution. Then you can have the conversation because they've been able to bridge the gap between, you've been able to bridge the gap between, oh, you don't have to reach out to the client. They reach out to you because you're trying to find out if you actually build, and then you come ahead and say, oh no, I saw this problem, I decided to solve it for them. That way you've been able to build a connection with them. So in the future, there's a chance for you to work with them, for you to work with that with design people. So it's better for you to just do research online on brands that are poor UI UX, like I said, or poor branding or poor something, when they have bad designs, and then just fix the problem, and then put it out online. And please do not, like, it's very important to say this, always put out your work, no matter how bad you think it is. This is something that has been an issue with me for years. I do not put out my work, and I just, sometimes I even lose files and I do not put out my work, but I've learned to fix that after a couple of years, learning that it's better to put it out, because deep down, when you're a designer deep down, it's hard for you to just put out your work out there. It's like, oh my God, it's not good enough. Oh my God, these people can do better. Oh my God, there's so many things going on. So it's better for you to just put out your work, no matter how bad you think it is, just put it out. You'll be surprised. Yeah.
Amazing. I summarized that, and I'm just gonna put that in the chat.
Okay.
That was a lot of great advice, and I'm sure there's a lot to unpack in there. So just to summarize, start with the basics, focus on the simple things, use local brands as case studies, find a problem, in local brands that you see and fix it. Then you can use it in your portfolio, which helps you learn. And lastly, it also helps you as conversations in interviews if you solve problems. A couple of questions that came up from students while we were talking about this is Tommy's asking, what are the basics? Or what would you say are the basic skills that a designer should have or should start from, especially if they're not going to design school and trying to self-learn online?
Okay. So basic skills for designs are so it's like when you want to start learning design from scratch, right? So they're like basic skills the basic skills you need are learning how to compile colors, right? Typography, typography, developing your design, understanding how to collate ideas. Okay, so there's understanding how to define what you're trying to design, describing what you're trying to design, visualize what you're trying to design. Those things are very important. So there's knowing the actual skills of designs. There's learning the actual skills of design. I mean, the understand, like I said, color combination, what's the word for it? Color combination, knowing how to place layout, all those small things. They are very, very important. Like I said, start from the basics. Just go online. Think about it as, oh, I want to learn design from basics. And as Google, you want to learn design from basics. Like, or I think there's a course on Coursera on that. There's a basic graphic design course on Coursera on that just teaches you how to start from scratch. So it teaches you from you're not learning the tool. You're not learning how to use Photoshop. You're not learning how to use Adobe Illustrator. You're not learning how to use CorelDRAW or Figma or anything. It's not about the tool. It's about understanding design from the lowest point of view, like building a solid foundation for yourself, understanding the principles of design. That's very important. Like, it's the principles that you understand. So when you understand the principles, you can apply it in any of those fields. I mean, the highest level to the lowest level, like you can apply it literally. I hope that does answer your question. Yeah.
That was a great answer. And because if you know the basics, then you can use any tool. The tool is not a barrier. Yeah. And for those who want to understand the basics, we do have a new course coming up. A course coming up next month on visual design. We have a course on UX design that teaches the design process, like from ideation to prototyping. But we have a visual design course coming up as well. Amazing. And you also mentioned that people should, no matter how bad their work is or whatever they think about it, they should put it online and share it with the world. So what are different avenues and like how can they do that? Like, should they, because and I've seen there's multiple ways someone can create a website or just have a portfolio on different, like Behance or something like that for graphic design, or should they just share on LinkedIn and Twitter? So what as starting out, what would you suggest? Yeah.
So, okay, so I think the best, I like the question a lot. Thank you for asking the question, because I mean, it's better to understand these things. So when I started out putting up my work on IG, on Instagram, right? And then on Behance, and then later on I built a website for myself. And I think now I have greater experience. The idea is this: what are you trying to achieve? What is your end goal? So number one is great. You need to build a digital footprint online. Your personal brand has to be very important. Even as a designer, everybody needs a personal brand, right? So I think your goal is what matters in the end. The people you're trying to reach, are they on Instagram? The people you're trying to reach, are they on LinkedIn? If the people you're trying to, are they on Twitter? So it's great to have, I think the best thing you can start with, put your work on Behance and then share the links from on Behance on all the other platforms, like Twitter, Instagram, all of them. Even on TikTok, share your work there. Like, share it everywhere. Because when you're starting from the beginning, you might probably not have clarity. And I think coming from a strategic point of view, clarity is very important because it helps you build different things. You understand what you want, you understand where you're trying to reach, you understand those type of things. So, I mean, it's easier for you to determine, oh, this is this is the people I'm trying to reach, this is what I'm trying to do. But if you don't have clarity yet, you need to just build a data footprint. Let them search for your name, let them search for Ibukum, and let them see like a whole bunch of things. Because when you have your work on different platforms, it's just everything just comes together when they search for you. So it's like building a digital footprint now. And then when you build, because you're still learning. So when you get to that stage, when you get to like a junior designer level, you can now start determining, oh, this is how I want to put my work out there. This is how I want to, like those type of things happen. But from the beginning, please just use all platforms. There's no, it's not like you have to use one. You can't be forced to use one. You can even build all this Canva website that I think, yeah, Canva just released the website that you can build a Canva website, share it online, do different, like just put your name out there. That's what you need to do. Just in case somebody reaches out or somebody refers you to someone and they just search your name online. Because when people tell me something these days and then they mention someone's name, the first thing I do is search for the person. I mean, I just, oh, what's this person's name? I just search for the person's name. I just want to know about you. So I feel like when you don't have digital footprint, there's no trust. People don't know where to start from. So it can be hard. So just build digital footprints. Put your work everywhere and anywhere you can. I think that's it.
Oh, awesome. That was great advice. And yeah, absolutely. Like, putting things online just like helps. And even though you think that no one is really like looking at your website or like you're not getting enough engagement, but you will be surprised the opportunities that come out from just sharing your work.
About that,
yeah.
I built a couple of websites 3 years ago, and apparently someone used it as a case study on a YouTube video that got over 200,000 views. I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like the website, I've never. I think the only people I I'd used the website with were companies that I was trying to reach out to get a job from, and people I was trying to work with who needed to see my portfolio. That was the only thing I visited for. And then someone reached out to me from the website telling me, oh, I saw your website on YouTube. And I was like, sorry, did you say YouTube? And I was like, yeah. So someone was doing a case study of great designer website online. And then she used my website and I didn't know about it. So you don't know who is going to use it. And the video got over 100,000 views. Imagine 100,000 people seeing my website from that video and then going to the website because she had to link the website underneath it. It was really a good opportunity for me to network, for people to see my work. I got a couple of projects from that particular video. So just put it out there. You'll be surprised by what people see online, how they see you, and then you'll be surprised. Like the internet it can be overwhelming, but it's great. It's the best place to start from.
Exactly. Yeah. Even like when we are like looking to hire designers or like people in actually any industry, we search online and try to find people who have put their work online. And many of our students have done that, like in UX design or data analysis and like sharing their dashboards and things online, and they get like people reach out to them instead of them reaching out for opportunities. Amazing. We have a bunch of questions in the chat. So a quick one is, someone is asking, which design school did you attend?
Oh, okay. I knew that was going to come up. Okay, so it wasn't a full-time, it was like a college, and it's actually in Nigeria, but it's somewhere in Ogun State, but they are not actually active again. They were active like 9 years ago, yeah, but they're not active again because they couldn't continue and all, yeah. But that was where I went to. It was somewhere in Ogun State, actually.
All right, thank you. Okay, someone's asking here, IBK, my question is, I know the basics and the processes of UX, but I can't start anything for the portfolio and can't find projects. Can you please tell me how to start my journey?
You can't start a portfolio. Is that what, sorry, can you rephrase the question again? You can't find projects. Do you have a portfolio?
Can't find projects for the portfolio.
Okay, so like I said, so you might have started, right? You already have basics, right? You understand what design is, you understand what UI UX is, right? So what you need to do right now is look for companies with bad UX and then fix the problem. Fix the bad UX and then put it on your own and then use it to create a portfolio. That's all you need to do. Just look for companies. I mean, no matter, I think if you search online for maybe it's better to actually be very, very think of a target audience you're trying to look for. Maybe the e-commerce space, maybe the real estate space. Think of an industry and then just search for companies in those industries and then start looking through their websites, their social media, and then you see companies that have really, really bad UX and fix it. You are not fixing it for them, you are fixing it for yourself. So when you fix it, you put the entire solution and the problem on your portfolio. And then that's what you use to reach out to people, to reach out for projects. And the first thing is this, when you solve that problem, when you put it out online, people see it. And the best thing about those type of things is you can relink it to a Facebook group of, let's say you build a solution for a real estate company that actually exists, but they have bad UX, right? And then you build a solution for them. And then you go on Facebook or LinkedIn groups and look for real estate company in those LinkedIn groups in your community or in the space that these real estate companies are. And then link the, create a link for it and they copy the link or paste the entire project on that group so that people in those groups who are in the real estate space can see the solution that you solve for a real estate company. You will definitely get projects. You might not get it in the first few ones that you start, but you just need to be consistent with it. Do a couple of ones. I'm pretty sure this is like a tested solution. Like I've seen it happen. It has happened to me. It has happened to a couple of my designer friends. I've seen it happen. So you'll be surprised. Just solve the problem, put it out there, and then use it on your own portfolio. That's all you need.
Amazing advice. And yeah, like you can just like easily find local businesses and maybe startups who are not really big or trying to like get big in small companies and just solve problems and even email it to them. Maybe they'll hire you.
That's another one. I mean, you could.
Exactly. Awesome. I'm just gonna quickly go through what is the fresher salary. We'll probably skip that because salary depends from country to country and it's a very broad topic. And you can Google that in your country and that might be a better, or like search on job boards. I think I like this question. How can a person overcome perfection procrastination? So just like, yeah, that's
one of the imposter syndromes. Okay, so like I said, I used to have that because I wanted my work to be perfect. So I don't used to put it out online. With the mindset that, oh, because it's not perfect. Yeah, I cannot put it out online. And then you procrastinate with it. You keep just working on one thing because you want it to be perfect, especially when you're building a portfolio. Oh my God, that can be very, very, that just kills it for you. You want to put the perfect work on your portfolio. But sincerely, interviewers don't look for perfect projects. They look for projects that shows that you've been able to learn. They look for projects that has your research skills, your analytical skills, your thinking. They look for different things. So they don't want perfection. So when you think your project is not perfect, I think what you should do is leave that particular project for a couple of days or for a couple of hours. I used to leave my projects when I'm having this type of issues for like a while and then come back to it. When I come back to it and I still feel the same way, I'm going to put it out that way. That's it. I'm just going to put it out without asking any questions. Although what I used to do is I call a couple of my friends, put them on a call, and then share my screen to show them the work. I used to do that a lot, but then I stopped doing that because I was just stressing them, and they couldn't say no because we were friends. I just realized I was stressing them. So yeah, just put it out there. Don't procrastinate. Don't think about it as perfect. Think of it as a poor job and put it out there. Just put it out there. It doesn't matter. Just put it out there. It's not your last work. Remember, just remind yourself that the work you do this year is going to be different from the work you do next year. Like you always do better work. Like there's always going to be a room for improvement. So just think of it that way. I mean, what I did 5 years ago is not what I'm going to be doing now. So it's like, just think of it as there's a room for improvement. Oh, this work is not so great, but I can improve in the future. Just think of it that way and then move on. That's it.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you, Ibukun. And I'm gonna, since we are a little bit short on time, I'm gonna, the students like, don't worry about, we have half an hour more with Sarah, so we can take some questions there. And I'm just going through the chat. a couple of students have shared their portfolios. Unfortunately, we don't have the time to look through them and give feedback at the moment. Another question that popped up twice was, are there any programming skills required for UI, like UX design, or do we need any like tech knowledge to get started or not?
Okay, so are there any are we talking about certifications? Is that a question, or programs that you need for UI UX?
Programming
Programs,
skills,
software.
programming skills, so like coding skills, softwares. Yeah, like
Oh,
do we
no,
need to have coding
no,
skills like
actually,
a, yeah.
no, actually, no. So I actually I think the only thing I can do is I learned a couple of HTML, CSS back then because I thought I needed to be I needed to know a couple of things about programming, but then no, you don't need any. I mean, not really. It's not important if you're focusing on your UX design. Yeah, it's not important. Although it's great to know the basics. Like I said, when you know basics, so when you're working with programmers, you understand what they are talking about. So it doesn't seem like, oh, what is this saying? I mean, it's great to know the basics, but I mean, it's not like it's vital. You can learn on the job. So yeah.
Yeah, true. Even like personally, I'm not in design, but I've made a couple of websites just for fun. And I think when I was using Webflow, I did, you don't need to know coding, but I knew some little bit of HTML and CSS, and that really helped.
Yeah, that's it.
To,
Just HTML and CSS.
yeah, just like to make some small changes, and it really helps
Yeah.
to like solve problems that might come up while you're doing it. All right, let's see. Last question, as we have 2 more minutes with Ivukun. Wow, there's
It's
plenty
okay.
of questions.
Oh
So
my
many
God.
questions.
Okay. I think I spare 5 minutes, but yeah.
Amazing. Maybe we'll come back to some other questions soon, but like let's do the last questions.
Okay.
Could you share a little bit more about career prospects in UX design, and like according to you, what's the demand for this career path in the current years? So this person saying machine learning and AI are currently like the trend and the buzzwords, and it's booming. So does UX design also, or design in general, have the same prospects over the coming years? Should people pursue that as a career?
Okay, so the truth is this. A lot of people are really scared about what AI can do and machine learning and all, right? But the truth is there's always going to be space for design. So design, remember, like I said, not for the tools, not for the softwares, but designers that can think, these analytical thinking, researchers. AI can never take away that. If you are a creative thinker, if you're a designer that can think, that can actually design thinking, like all these things are important. Thinking is very important. So if you're a designer that can actually really think, critical thinking is very important. So you won't have to worry about machine learning or all these type of things taking away your job or anything like that. Just know that design is, if you're a great designer, if you're not a tool designer, not a template designer, just so we are clear, forget about the tools, understand the basic, knowing the basics of design, understanding how design actually works. You are going to be the one to program the machine to actually do the work, because the machine cannot actually think like human beings. So like there's creativity in thinking. So there's always going to be a job for creative thinkers. I mean, machine can never do that. So yeah, you don't have to worry if you are a creative thinker. Don't just be a designer that just follows templates and do all sorts. Just think, solve actual problem by thinking about it. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thanks, Ivukun. Let's, for everybody, I would invite all the people who are watching this to just share one word, how they're feeling right now about their career and just like in general about UX design, as Ivukun shared her insights with us for 30 minutes. I'm feeling quite thrilled. So just like one word, how you're feeling. I'm super excited to learn more about design myself, because I personally not a designer, but have been involved in working with designers, and it's pretty exciting to hear different ways people can build up a career in it. And if people would like to reach out to you or just connect with you? Where can they find you? Where is it, like any social medias or anywhere they can
Yeah.
search for you?
Okay, so I'm on Instagram. So I'm a lot more active on Instagram, and I have a Twitter account. But on all these accounts, my name is Ibukun_Nofio. Just put my name and my surname on it, and then you find me. And you can also reach me on LinkedIn. Yeah, but then I'm more active on Instagram because I'm a little bit. I don't post a lot, but yeah, I'm there sometimes. I'm there sometimes. I don't really like social media like that, so I try to avoid the same. Yeah.
Awesome. So everybody, I encourage you to connect with Ibukun later on, and maybe like even check out her work. And it's like a lot of great things on her website, which I was inspired by. And let's thank
you.
Thanks Ibukun once again. And there's people saying just like how they're feeling in the chat. So everyone's motivated. So thank you.
No problem.
Thank you.
Let me share the link to my Instagram so you can reach
Yes.
out to me directly. Second. So just reach out and ask me any questions that you have. I won't mind answering your question. I do usually mind answering questions. Never a problem. Sorry.
Awesome. And our next speaker
Okay.
is here as well. Ibukun, feel free to stay if you'd like. Thank you so much again for your time, and I'll be in touch soon.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just shared the link.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Awesome. Hello, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
Very good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us. I'm just gonna quickly just share my screen for a second. One second. So once again, everybody, just requesting if you could turn on your videos, that would be amazing. If not, no problem at all. And introducing our next speaker, Sarah. She's a senior product designer at Glovo, which is a fast-growing app in like I think it's in both in Europe and Africa. And I love this app because I've been using it almost daily since I moved to Nairobi, and it's been a savior. So to kick off, Sarah, we'd love to hear a little bit about from yourself. Yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and a little bit of your background.
Awesome, no problem. Thank you again for inviting me. It's so amazing to be here and talk to so many people. I think the first thing that I can say is I'm a dog lover. You've already showed my precious dog on the screen. So I love dogs and I love cats. I love animals in general. So my name is Sarah and I'm a senior product designer at Glovo. And Glovo is the fast-growing delivery app. The headquarters is in Barcelona, Spain, where I'm currently based. But before Spain, I used to live in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. And I've been involved in product design for 6 years now. I started out as a UI designer, learned a bit of UX, and then learned a bit of business leadership, which ultimately landed me in product design. I love designing, but I'm not a 24 hours designer. So if I'm not designing, I'm writing or I'm designing board games. Generally, fun activities to keep my brain engaged and curious.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. To kickstart off, my first question would be, I think there's just like usually some confusion between what is a product designer, a UX designer, or a UI designer. So, and someone actually asked that question a few minutes ago in the chat. So if you could distill for us the subtle differences between product, UX, and UI designers.
Sure. I like how you use the word subtle. So product design and UX design, UI UX design is something that we see interchangeably used online on LinkedIn, so many places. And I'll try and just differentiate it in the way I understand it in a very simple format. So when I was a UI UX designer, this meant that I understood UI, user interface, for what it was, designing the aesthetics of an application or a product to make it very beautiful and aesthetically pleasing to the user. And then when I learned about UX, user experience, it meant that I was learning how to give the user minimum stress with maximum effort, with minimum stress with maximum enjoyment. So making them able to accomplish goals that we've set out for them on the application without a lot of clicks, without a lot of cognitive load, making sure that they can achieve their goals seamlessly. Blending those two skills is what allowed me to become a UI UX designer. But product design is a bit different in the sense that to be a product designer, you also should acquire leadership and business focused skills, understanding a business's key objectives, their OKRs, their goals, and how that directly translates into the product that they're building, and how that, as it translates into the product they're building, translates into how your design is contributing to that product. So if you understand the overall goal of the company and what they're trying to achieve and how design is going to help them achieve that, your design will be very focused in making sure that you're not only pleasing users, but you're achieving the company's goals. That way you have business skills, you have UI skills, you have UX skills in product design. So that's essentially what it is.
Awesome. Thank you for breaking that down for us. To follow that on, you said you're a senior product designer at Glovo, and Glovo is a fast-growing startup. So how has that experience been for you? And like, what is the day in the life? Very broadly, what is the day in the life for you working there?
Glovo is such an amazing place to work. It's interesting, it's demanding, and it's interesting because Glovo fosters an environment where you get to work with so many different nationalities and diverse cultures. And that is important as a designer, because when you're working in an organization with different cultures and different perspectives, it allows you to think more empathically about building. It allows you to see things from different people's perspectives rather than your own. And so you become a more well-rounded designer because you can see things from A, B, C, and D. And Glovo provides that because you're working with, I think we have over 100 and something nationalities in Glovo, and I get to interact with them on different projects, which is amazing to see how things work in their country as a contrast to Nigeria or even Europe. So working there, day in the life is getting different perspectives from so many different cultures and working with really talented people who are really interested in seeing Glovo rise. And of course, our company culture is amazing. I mean, there's parties, they're so focused on our mindset. So there's always going to be a coffee or a gift waiting for you in the office. It's been a really amazing place to work.
Wow, that's making me jealous. Even though I love my job, but that sounds very exciting and fun. And just a reminder for everyone else, you can still pop in your questions. If we missed your questions in the previous sessions, feel free to pop that in the chat once again. Or if you'd like to ask that questions, raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can come to the screen with us, share the screen with us. One more question from me before we see the chat. Yeah, so in the previous conversation, Ibu could mention that budding designers should get their basics right. They should focus on understanding the basics of design before they get better with any tools or deciding which, because if they're good at the basics, they can choose whatever role they want to do and need to understand like how to solve problems, because it's not just making things pretty, but solving problems. Let's say someone finished a course in visual design and they're now good with the basics. What tools would, there's so many tools out there to use as well. What tools would you recommend someone for a beginner to get started with and build expertise in? So they can, yeah, like create their portfolios and work in what tools are in demand. So if you could expand on that a little bit.
Oh, no problem. This question you've asked me is something I commonly get on ADP lists when I'm mentoring designers. And I always say, think of getting into your product design career like cooking. There's a recipe, there's things you have to check off. before you get to the final results. And as Ubukun mentioned, yes, it's great if you have the design basics. For the UI portion, you should definitely have graphic design principles. You should understand things like space and contrast and hierarchy. And on the UX side, you should definitely understand psychological research, building personas, understanding who the user is, what they want, when they want it, and how you can help them get that. But then there's also soft skills. You're going to work in an organization. You can have all the technical knowledge of UI and UX, but if you're not an effective communicator or know how to, defend your design decisions, then you're not going to be as successful as you want. So I definitely will say, get the UI basics, get the UX basics, get organizational basics, know how to communicate, know how to present your work, know when to not be defensive with your work and how to take feedback. And when you're sure that you have those basic skills, then you can acquire the digital tools that will help you aid those things. So we're talking about things like collaboration tools like Miro or FigJam, which will allow you to present your work in a mind maps, sticky notes, boxes, things that allow you to explore your creativity and collaborate with other people while capturing their thoughts. And then of course, we have our tools like Figma or XD, or as XD as Sport Figma, whatever it's going to be called. Those kind of tools that help you to turn your designs from wireframes into prototypes. And then, of course, if you're interested in the research side of things, you can definitely learn those research tools, how to analyze a maze, how to put together one, and how to draft data from those kind of user survey platforms. So I will say, pick one tool. Don't try to become a master of all of them, because that's a recipe for disaster. If you're going to be using a collaboration tool, explore Miro and FigJam, find out what works for you. Let that be your tool of choice. If you're going to be exploring design, explore ProtoPie or Figma or XD or whatever, and pick what works for you. And of course, consider what is in the market. Organizations recognize Figma now a lot, and they're going to, most times, if you're applying for a job, they're going to expect you to use it. So I wouldn't advise you to go out of the way to learn something that will limit your application for jobs, right? So learn all those digital tools, get one of each, build mastery in them. Most of these tools, they have YouTube tutorials that they create. You can go through them and learn the basics as well as some advanced skills. And then of course, build your innate skills, build your UI, visual design, graphic design skills, so you understand how aesthetics work. Build your user experience skills by understanding empathy and how to take into account people's perspectives, even people you can't really relate with. And then of course, build your organizational skills, know how to communicate, know when to apologize, know when to defend, know when to schedule a talk. All these skills in their basic forms are what you need when you're starting out.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. Thank you for the in-depth detail on the tools. I think Ani has his hand up, so I'm just gonna ask them to unmute, and if they want to ask their question.
Sure.
All right, thank you very much, Sarah. Thanks for the opportunity to ask. I want to ask Sarah, how long did it take you to become a UX designer, and what was the challenges you've been through so far? Yeah, and what are the prospects that lies in becoming a UX designer?
Okay. How long did it take me to become a UX designer? So I started UX design in my last 2 years of university. And at that point, I would say I was just understanding the basics of UX design. From that point, handling a project by myself independently took me maybe 10 months before I knew enough of the basics to actually have a client trust me with their idea and go through the whole design thinking process with them and produce a result. But then we never stop learning, right? So everybody's continually learning. But in the first place, yeah, it took me about 10 months to learn the basics to start actually handling client projects. Challenges that I faced, I don't think challenges end. Even now, I still face some challenges. But challenges I faced when I was starting out was understanding. So keeping into mind that I started out UX design in Nigeria, and maybe like most of Africa, we had a problem whereby a lot of companies may say they want to hire you as a designer, but in fact, what they're looking for is your visual skills. And they may not necessarily appreciate the time you want to take to research or do UX. And as we know, UX involves a lot of work. Recruiting people for interviews and doing surveys and testing are sometimes things that were not appreciated early on because they just want to see the visual project. So I found that a challenge because as a designer, you want to grow, you want to do things in order, you want to do the correct things. And when you're constantly being told you need to hurry up, we just want to see the final product, it was a major challenge. A way to circumvent that, of course, if you find yourself in that situation, is definitely explaining to them the benefits of you taking time to do the UX portion of things. You can explain to them that in the long run, it's going to save them money if you do things right the first time than you just winging it and giving them a finished visual design. And if you can actually prove that practically, I'm sure they will appreciate that. So that was a major challenge for me, not being able to practice UX as much as I wanted. And I think another challenge in the beginning was opportunities. You may sometimes find that not a lot of companies offer internships for UI UX designers or product designers, but there's entry-level positions. But entry-level positions are very different from internships. An entry-level position, you have a job, it's an obligation, right? An internship, maybe it's a bit more lax and there's somebody to guide you. So it was a challenge for me because I really wanted an internship where they would understand that like I'm trying to grow in this field, but I'm an intern, so I have a lot to grow, rather than a job where like, it's a job and there's a lot of pressure. So that was another challenge. But again, how I circumvented that challenge was actually asking. So I would ask a company that hired a lot of designers if they wouldn't mind me interning, even though they didn't have any intern positions. Oftentimes it meant that I was interning for free. They weren't going to pay me because they didn't need an intern in the first place, right? But at least being able to work as an intern in that company allowed me to observe other designers that were actually hired and what they were doing on a day-to-day and what I needed to learn. And sometimes actually you may ask, can I be an intern? And then you start working. And because you show promise and you show potential, they may actually say, hey, you know what, you're doing a good job, let's pay you something, which is also good. So those were the two challenges that I faced a lot when I started design.
Thank you. And I think there were a few questions in the chat about internships. I hope that answers the answer answers those questions as well. We have another hand up, so I'm going to unmute Ogu.
Sure.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you for the session. So I wanted to ask, right, how similar is product design and product management? Because like I came into the completely new to everything. So like where I started was product management, right? So if I'm looking towards going into product design, where do you advise that I start?
Okay, amazing. I actually worked for 1 year as a product manager. And I will say that one of the convergent things that converge between product management and product design is UX. So as a product manager, you should definitely have the ability to know how to brainstorm using similar tools like FigJam or Miro to just, take ideas and cluster them and analyze them and come up with solutions. And I know a lot of product designers who are very great at wireframing low fidelity solutions. And so if you already have those UX skills of knowing how to empathy map and wireframe and empathize with users and do a lot of background research and competitive analysis, then you already basically have the basic building blocks of user experience research or user experience for product building. And a place to start from there, if you now want to transition into product design, will be brushing up on your visual aesthetic skills. So graphic design principles, understanding the building blocks of typography, color, space, contrast, and finding that out is something that is all over the internet, graphic design principles. Once you learn that, you have a good foundation into visual aesthetics, and then you can apply your UX to the UI. So I would definitely say if you're in product management, nail the UX first, understand all the UX format, the different forms of UX and ways to practice them: empathy mapping, wireframing, competitive analysis, research. And when you have that down, learn the graphic design visual skills. That will aid you when you want to start moving into the UI interface portion of things, from taking your ideas from UX to prototype. I hope that answered your question.
Great answer. We have more hands up, so I'm gonna coming in because it's better to hear the questions directly from the students.
Awesome.
Hey, David, I'm gonna unmute you. Ask to unmute you.
Okay, good everybody.
Hi.
I believe you can hear me. So I have two questions. One is for entry level. I think I wanted to enroll for the November cohort program. So then I just want to find out the actual price for the program. I don't know whether it will be before or after we start the class. That's when we'll pay. That is the first question. The second question. Thank you very much, the lady that spoke about the thing, though I came late anyway. But I don't know if you can just a rough detail on the processes that a UX should undergo in a project, or for a project rather, like the processes every UX must undergo, because I discovered that they have a lot of different processes online, and it's very hard for you to say this is the correct process. So I just want her to outline the flow for the UX. Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. So to first answer your question, it really depends on your style and the project you're working on. Obviously, we have a lot of generic processes out there where we'll say the first thing you need to do is understand the problem. And when you understand the problem, you need to ideate. Ideate being come up with as many possible solutions as possible to that problem that you've identified, and then collaborate with stakeholders until you pick the best solution that's from all the ones that you came up with, and then expand on that solution. So take that solution from just an idea to low fidelity, from low fidelity to high fidelity. And then of course you test again, make another iteration and changes from what you've learned from your testing, and then you push out. That's a very simple process for getting an idea from idea to finished product. But it goes back to what I said in the beginning. It depends on the company you're working in. For example, in Glovo, I came into a company whereby we have people who already work on the UX research portion for us, right? We have a lot of amazing UX researchers, and they collaborate with amazing product managers to already help you empathize that idea and do a lot of background research. And so my own actual day-to-day actually consists of talking to those researchers and seeing the insights that they've gotten from the UX research that they carried out. And when I take that insights into the solution that I propose to solve. And then I take that solution from wireframe to high fidelity. I take that high fidelity back to stakeholders, which are usually product managers, UX researchers, and engineers, or a product owner. And then they look at that solution and they give feedback. And then we take that solution and we test it with users. When we test that with users, that testing is usually not owned by me in my organization. That testing is owned by the UX researcher, and I kind of body on that process. And that UX researcher does that research and testing and comes back to me with insights, which they help me understand. And those insights help me to iterate on my design and make that design the final product that we eventually push out to production. So it really depends on your organization. You could be working somewhere where you know all the process and you have to do everything. And then you could work somewhere where you have a lot of different people who already own bits and pieces of that design process, and you have to focus primarily on UI, UX.
Okay, thank you very much, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
So,
Sarah.
My second question, the cost.
We'll answer that at the end because we're going to focus on Sarah's time here. And if you have any questions, I'm just going to put up an email in the chat. You can reach out to support@EntryLevel, and they can help you out if there's any issues with the pricing of the courses, because if you face any issues, and we can talk about that at the end. Thank you, David. I'm going to unmute, ask to unmute Shakira if you still want to ask the question.
Yes, I still do. Thanks, Sarah and Ayush. Hopefully I pronounced it well. Yeah, like I think someone who asked previously, I also joined the EntryLevel program through product management, and I have seen a lot of product managers also doing a bit of design. And yeah, so that's why I signed up for this Ask Me Anything. You talked about getting into product design or UI UX design in your last 2 years of university. What sparked that? Like what sparked the interest, and what steps did you go through to actually achieve to get from there? Oh, I think I love this to actually having it as a career path. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. That's such an interesting question. Yes, in my last 2 years of university, as with every college student, you may just, in college is the place where you find out that you have lots of talents or skills that could earn you money. And for me, one of those talents and skills was graphic design, communication design. I was always online on different boards on Facebook groups, and I would see people ask, oh, who can design a poster, who can design a logo? And that just gave me a love for graphic design. And then I started to learn how to use Photoshop. And so I worked on a lot of communication materials, paid projects on helping people create PowerPoints and logos and the occasional flyer or t-shirt design here and there. And then one day, I started to get a lot of requests for a website. So I actually went to school and I learned information technology. And so we did have some technology classes talking about coding and that, but it wasn't something I was so interested in. And when somebody asked me to design a website, I thought, this is something I haven't done before. And I mean, the internet is your friend. I started to Google and YouTube, and I found people actually designing websites on Photoshop. And so I did my very first landing page for a website on Photoshop. And I was just listening to the YouTube tutorial and doing the work, listening to the YouTube tutorial and doing the work. And when I was done, I presented it to the client and he said, this is beautiful. And he paid me. And I saw that as an opportunity to cultivate a skill that could not only potentially earn me a lot of money, but something I enjoyed. It felt like next level design to me. And so I started to research a bit more, how to design an app in Photoshop, how to design a website in Photoshop, and just hours of watching and testing and watching and testing. And there's something that happens when you watch something and you actually practically do it. You learn the skill, and it's something that doesn't really go away from you. I don't use Photoshop that often in my day-to-day now, but if I go to Photoshop, because of those hours of practice, there are some certain things that I will never forget. And so just that constant practice allows you to build muscle memory into design. And the more I kept doing that, the more I wanted to get better. And of course, in my bid to get better, the world was changing around me and tools were coming up. XD was coming up, Sketch was coming up. And I was understanding that these tools were more better to use than Photoshop. And so what did I do? I just went back to my research mindset, watched more YouTube videos on how to design the same things I was designing in Photoshop, but in XD and in Sketch. And I joined more job boards on Facebook and a couple of WhatsApp groups. And I would just always put myself out there. I'd say, hey, I'm a designer and I design this and this and this and this. And if anybody caught my bait and asked me to do a job, I would use the new software to work on their work while improving my skills. And doing that over a period of time, I started to see how it was actually a professional career. So on LinkedIn, I started to connect with people who actually had these job titles, UX designer, visual designer. I saw that they had portfolios and I started to think, oh, this is actually a profession. I don't have to become a programmer, or I don't have to become a database clerk. I can actually build this as a profession because I'm doing it in my spare time to make money. And so I connected with those people on LinkedIn, watched more tutorials, tried to make sure that whatever skill I saw somebody who I admired or mentors who I spoke to, they had, I tried to make sure I had that same skill. And slowly over that, I built experience, I built a resume, and then I was able, just like everybody else, to keep learning, to keep growing. If something new came out, I would research about it, actively practice it to make my work and my projects better. And that hasn't changed. Even in year 2022 is what I still do to today. I think another thing that really made me say this is what I want to do is just the fulfillment portion of it. The fact that when people come to you with an idea, they don't really know the process you're going to take that idea of theirs into a finished product. And oftentimes they are amazed that just from them talking about your idea, you were able to come up with a website or an app that does exactly what they wanted. There's a sense of fulfillment in helping people solve a problem. And obviously it's nice to get paid for it too, but there's also the fulfillment and the feeling that comes from being able to solve problems. Just made me understand that, like, I'd like to be a product designer, and that's what pushed me.
Amazing. Thanks, Sarah. So much, lots of wisdom and learnings from your own journey. Would you have a couple more minutes? I think we're a bit over time. Maybe one last question. Sarah, would you have time for one last question, Sarah?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Awesome. So Toby has his hand up for a while. So I'm gonna get you to ask the last question.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so thank you for the session. So quickly, I would like to ask, my question is about how to stay motivated in learning UX design, because over the last 2 years I've been trying to learn. Though I started out as a graphic designer, not so far proficient with all the tools, but I use Corel Draw for my designs, and I'm trying to go into product design using going to UX design. So, but over 2 years I've been finding it difficult for learning, because I was going through self-learning. So trying to watch YouTube videos, take some online courses, but I've been going off and on, and it's been a really difficult task for me. So I would like to know what are the strategies that you can recommend to stay motivated on this learning part, especially if you are trying to get these skills by self-taught. Yeah, so that's basically my question.
Okay, thank you, Toby. I really relate with your question because I am largely a self-taught designer. I think it was 4 years into product design that I started taking maybe short courses on Udemy or platforms like IDF, Interaction Design Foundation. So, I took short courses on things that I realized that I wasn't so skilled on. So I would strategically analyze myself and say, okay, I'm not good in this particular area, and I would take a course on that. But largely, self-taught designer from what you've mentioned, YouTube tutorials, other tutorials, and just practically working on it. And I think your question actually is 2 questions. So let me see how I can answer it. The first one about motivation is surrounding yourself with community. You cannot be on a journey to become a product designer on your own because you will get discouraged, you won't be motivated, you will have imposter syndrome, you feel like your work is not good enough. And the only way to beat things like that is surround yourself with a community. And there are communities out there. An amazing community for me is always LinkedIn. LinkedIn is such an amazing community when you tailor your LinkedIn experience. What do I mean by tailoring your LinkedIn experience? Follow platforms like EntryLevel, and there are a bunch more other platforms that post posts that might be helpful to you as a designer trying to learn on maybe free courses, job opportunities, internship opportunities, so many different things. And so when you follow people like that, your LinkedIn becomes a place where you see treasure of information. Connect with people, connect with designers who are also connect with designers of all levels. So connect with entry associate designers so that you have a place where maybe if somebody is posting about something they don't understand, you can comment and say, I don't understand too, or I'm feeling unmotivated too. And then you build a network and community of friends who can lift you up. And then connect with senior designers as well. A bunch of times, sometimes people feel intimidated to connect with people who they feel have more experience than them, but there's nothing like a stupid question. So connect with people, and ask them to mentor you, or ask them, have a list of questions on hand, send them a message. If they are available, they will answer you. I know I'm always available to answer people on LinkedIn because I know what it's like to go through a stage where you're feeling unmotivated. So that's what I think you should do regarding the motivation. And then the second one of, I think you said struggling to learn the skills, I would say pace yourself. Treat every skill that you need to learn as a project. Rome wasn't built in a day. So you need to outline the skills that you need to learn. Okay, as a graphic designer, I already have the visual skills. That's great. What UX skills do I not have? What products, like business facing skills do I not have? What soft skills do I not have? Write them down. Try not to make them a lot. 3 at most on each is a great place to start with. And then figure out how you can learn these things. Figure out how you can learn the UX skills from online, free courses, YouTube, mentorship platforms like ADP List, which I'm on, so strategically connect with people to learn a particular skill, not learning everything at once. And when you feel like you've learned a particular skill, move on to the next thing on your list. That way you're just learning building blocks of skills that you need to become a well-rounded designer. I think that will help you a lot. Leverage on mentorship platforms where people are willing to give their time to answer your questions. I think that will help.
Thank you, Sarah. I think that was a perfect last question and motivating tips for everyone who's attended today's session. My last question to you would be, where can the participants find you? Where can they connect with you, whether it's LinkedIn, or what do you prefer if people want to connect with you further?
I think from the way I've spoken, you can tell that LinkedIn is something like I really love. And it's important because just to add, in the last 4 years of my career, every job I've ever gotten was LinkedIn. So that's why I'm such a huge LinkedIn advocate. You can connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a DM. I'm always ready to answer questions. And for my LinkedIn, you can see a link to ADP List where I have open slots during the week. You can book a session and we can have a talk about whatever may be a challenge for you, and I'll just try and help you the best that I can. So I will say LinkedIn, ADP List are the best places to connect with me. I'm active on Instagram as well, but it's mostly just my personal life. So if you're interested in that, great.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And yes, everyone, ADP List, we're one of the partners with ADP List, and you can get an account with our code. So it shows you're from an entry-level student, and you can book a one-on-one session with Sarah and get all your questions answered, because I know we weren't able to go through all of the questions. And yeah, and we might need to do another session with Sarah on LinkedIn, like on how to use LinkedIn well. You just you said you got so many jobs through LinkedIn. I think that's brilliant. Maybe next year we can do a session on how to use LinkedIn well and
Awesome.
tips for doing that.
Awesome.
Thanks, Sarah. Before we just wrap up, I have for everyone who's here, just a couple of slides. Just a second. I think I shared the wrong screen. Yeah, for everyone who has not done, is thinking about getting started in UX design, we do have a course on UX design. It's more focused on learning the design thinking process. And it's a 4-week course, which you have up to 6 weeks to finish. And it starts with introduction to UX design, learning user research, ideation, moving on to sketching and wireframing. I think there was a question in the chat here about wireframing and what's the different types of fidelity. So you can learn all that in the course. And lastly, about prototyping, where you actually work on a solution and the program helps you create portfolio as you go through it. So I highly recommend checking it out. And then if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us. And lastly, we have more events coming up. There's one more on product design and UX design in the third week this year. So definitely join us for that. But if you are also interested in figuring out if growth marketing is for you or product management is for you, so we have events for those as well over the next 3 weeks. And yeah, and if you have any questions, email support@entrylevel.net. And you can even email me at ayush@entrylevel.net if you have any questions. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna stop the meeting now, and take care and good luck in your UX design careers. See ya.
Bye.